is Bex coming at you from Ecos Ethos, and today we are going to talk about plants that might not be good for people who are looking to be a little more eco-conscious. And so, like my previous video on plants that would be good, the same criteria is going to follow. So it's going to be the water needs. Does it need a lot of water? Does it need distilled water? Does it require a lot of humidity? Because most of us would need to have to buy humidifiers in order to keep up the humidity in our house. How resilient is it? Is it able to be adaptable? Will it die if you forget to water it for a day, etc., etc.? And yeah, so with that criteria, let's move on into the plants. So the first plant that I would not recommend if you are looking to be eco-conscious is the peace lily. So I've never owned one, and the reason for that is because all of the people that I have watched on YouTube that talk about plants talk about how difficult peace lilies are to keep alive. So with the difficulty of just keeping them happy and alive, as well as the amount of water they need, I say nix it if you're trying to be eco-conscious. So the next plant on the list would be ivy, any sort of ivy. I hear a lot of people say that they just buy it for the summertime, knowing that the plants are going to die off by winter. I don't know about you, but I want to have plants that are in it for the long haul, so I don't want to have to keep on rebuying plants just to make an area look nice. With ivy, they also like a lot of humidity, but want to be drier, so it's kind of a hard balance to hit for a lot of people. And ivy also is a spider mite magnet. I have not heard of anybody who has ivy been able to keep spider mites away. So I would say just avoid ivy in general. Okay. Next up on the list of plants to avoid are going to be the Marantas, Calatheas, Stramanthes, and Centanthes. Like, they're all a part of the Marantaceae family or prayer plant family, and they are divas. They require a lot of humidity. They need distilled water, which means that you would have to buy bottled water for them constantly. And they just get brown leaves. They can die out of nowhere, and I've had quite a few of them collect spider mites where none of my other plants seem to. So I would, in general, just avoid all of those plants. The only exceptions would be maybe the green Maranta. So he's doing pretty well. This is the mama plant. So they're okay. They have some brown leaves, but nothing too terrible. And this rattlesnake Calathea seems to do okay. And I think the reason for that is just because of how thick the leaves are compared to other Marantaceae type plants. So it doesn't need as much humidity. It can hold in water, so if you let it dry out a little bit, it's not going to die on you like some of the other ones. So those would be the only two that I would cautiously recommend. So number 4 on the list of plants to avoid if you want to be eco-conscious are Dracaenas, and really the only reason that I have these on the list is just because they prefer distilled water, and if they don't get distilled water, they like to get the brown tips on the edges and then they just look really ugly. I really don't see a reason why I would want to buy a plant that's just going to look bad because I'm not giving it what it needs. So I am just avoiding them now. I did buy a Dracaena early on in my plant collecting career, and I kind of regret it. So I would just listen to this video and not buy any. Okay. So next up on the list would be crotons. Crotons. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't have any. And the reason for that is just because it requires so much water and so much humidity. It's hard to make them happy. Usually people can't seem to get the humidity right, and so they die, faint, get crispy, etc., etc. So I would avoid them just because of the water needs. And I also don't find them that attractive, but that's just me. Okay, so next up, fiddle leaf figs. Just avoid them. They're gonna drop leaves like crazy, especially if you move around from apartment to apartment like we do. I just have a feeling that if we were to ever get a fiddle leaf fig, it would die as soon as we move to a new place. And then the last four very specific categories of plants would be ferns. So they also require a lot of water and a lot of humidity, and they're just pretty difficult to keep alive, especially these small leaf ferns. I've heard mixed success with larger leaf ferns like the blue star fern and the staghorn fern. We have a blue star fern. He's looking a little sad. His name is Fernie Sanders, and there will be a clip of him just so you could see what he kind of looks like in lower humidity and in a plastic pot that is able to retain water. Okay, so the last two categories are just going to be like an overall thing that you should keep in mind. And the first one is just going to be like not buying plants that don't fit the lighting situation you have. So because we live in an apartment that only has north-facing windows, we don't have succulents or cacti, even though I love them. And the reason for that is they would just die in the lighting that we have, and I don't want to have to buy any more grow lights than we already have. So as you can see, we have one grow light back there, and that's because Kez's mom decided to buy us one for Christmas or my birthday. And that's the only reason why we have that grow light. But I personally wouldn't buy any more for myself just because I don't want to waste the energy just by keeping plants alive in my house. Okay, and so the very last thing that you would want to avoid if you want to be eco-conscious are uncommon and rare plants. And the reason for this is because you're not really going to be able to find them in nurseries or the big box stores. And so a lot of people have to look online to try to buy them, and that means that you might be shipping from across the United States, and then there's packaging and the gas that people are wasting just to go from point A to point B to deliver one plant, as well as, the plastic that it's wrapped in, the potential of the plant dying during transit because it was too cold, too hot, it was just too stressed out, etc. And the more rare plants, I see people ordering from places like Thailand and Indonesia, which are across the globe. And to me, I just find that very wasteful to try to buy a couple leaves that are being shipped thousands upon thousands of miles within a couple days to make sure that the plant doesn't die, just so that we could have some uncommon greenery in our house. And that might be an unpopular opinion, but that's what I think. If you want a more uncommon plant, maybe you should join some Facebook groups like Plant Purge USA or like a plant group that's in your area, because I'm sure people have these plants and they're willing to sell cuttings. So if you really want them, look on Facebook first. All right, that is all that I have for you, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.